Happy Mother's Day, everyone. As a gift, the Supreme Court gave us the loss of our bodily autonomy.
Yes.
Welcome to MOMocrats Mama Chat, part of the DemCast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills, here with Karoli and Aliza, and my cat just does not want to get off the dining room table.
All right. Would it be a MOMocrats podcast without an animal doing something?
Would I squirt it from here?
He likes water. He's the one that sits under the tap and gets his head all wet.
Both of mine do that. Both of my cats do that.
Yeah. He's just going to go to, he's going to clean himself and then he's going to go to sleep. Here, now you can't see him now. There
just
we
like
go.
a man. Just like a man. He walks right in.
Right?
Starts playing with himself. Great.
Yeah.
But he can do that and get away with it. And, nobody's going to give him any crap about it. And,
no, just look at Jeffrey Toobin.
Yeah, exactly. I rest my case.
Or Louis C.K. won a Grammy.
Yeah, well,
I did do anything.
Trevor Noah calling Toobin out at the CNN table at the course.
What did he do? Tell me. Oh, I missed it. Tell me what Trevor Noah said.
I don't remember exactly what he said, but he called him out. He said that he, was surprised anybody wanted to sit next to him. You don't know what he's going to be up to.
Yeah.
Honestly,
if there were tablecloths, I would have been worried if there were tablecloths. I would have wanted to see under the table.
I mean, he talked about disaster coverage and CNN Plus.
Yeah. I mean, he was brutal to CNN. That's
good.
True.
He was good.
Can we talk about some good news? The good news that
Chuck. Before we get into the meat.
The happy news.
Yeah, give us some good news.
Chuck Todd is off MSNBC,
but replaced by Chris Jansen.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not. It's a temporary replacement. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think it's like she's the placeholder for Jen Psaki, maybe.
Yeah, so that was I was doing my little Betty White, my Betty White threat.
Yeah, that's good news.
He's been popular with the MSNBC audience.
Well, he's not really popular with any audience to speak of. I mean, maybe Republicans. I mean, that's possible. But as far as any journalism or thoughts thereof, there's none of that from Chuck Todd. I mean, he's just the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
The one
joke.
Yeah, the best Trevor Noah joke was the one where he said something about, that would be worth a follow-up, but Chuck Todd doesn't know what that is.
It was even more delicious than that. Chuck Todd, how are you? I would ask a follow-up, but we know you don't know what those are.
That's it.
How are you? A follow-up.
So good.
Sorry, everybody. I'm just.
I always have to remind myself that MSNBC is the liberal cable news site by accident, only because they accidentally discovered that there was an audience for a progressive viewpoint.
Tell me that story. I didn't know that story.
Oh, no, it's absolutely true. But before you go there, I mean, it's only liberal for 3 hours, right? In prime time. It's only liberal from Joy Reid to Lawrence O'Donnell. That's it. So maybe 4 hours. So Joy Reid, Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow, and Lawrence O'Donnell. The rest of the time, it's not liberal.
No longer Lawrence O'Donnell. And Lawrence O'Donnell.
Lawrence O'Donnell. Yeah. Right.
But I feel like Stephanie Ruhle and Ali Velshi have always been pretty fair and liberal minded, even though they were initially
financial
economic reporters. But I always felt like they were they were good journalists, and they did they did a good job challenging people on their bullshit and educating people. I felt like they were very good. Like I felt like they did a good job.
They're just not overtly.
No, they're not partisan in their coverage. But I And I feel that Nicole Wallace, even though she's, was a Republican, I feel like her coverage of things is pretty liberal.
Yes.
Although I don't always love who she has on.
She's got all of her Republican friends, never Trumper Republican friends on.
Yeah, but I mean, but a lot of the time, I really think she's pretty terrific.
I think she's doing a lot of penance since she had to train Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
I honestly don't. I mean, yes, she's doing all those things, but I don't view her as being particularly liberal. I mean, she's centrist, maybe. She's fair. Yeah, she's fair. But that's what I'm saying. If you're going to call MSNBC liberal, then you're only going to start at Joy Reid and finish with Lawrence O'Donnell. That's all.
Okay, so tell me how this. Like, I knew that it didn't start out as set out to be.
Roger Ailes was originally in charge of it before he moved to Fox.
So okay. So
Roger, he was in charge. Go ahead.
What did he set out to have a Fox News type thing, or that's what he wanted MSNBC to be? Okay,
right. And he was also running CNBC, I think, at the time, or wanting to run CNBC. I think was the way that went, because I know. Back then, CNBC was awful. It was horrible. It was like Fox Business is today. And there's more to the story, but I mean, I worked at CNN at the same time that MSNBC launched, and we weren't even thinking about Fox News at that point.
Right.
I mean, Fox News wasn't even on our radar. It was us and MSNBC.
And it was a joint venture with Microsoft. That's the MS in MSNBC.
No kidding.
Yeah. For real. So
it was a joint
something new.
I mean, as recently
floundering, Yeah. I mean, they had Phil Donahue, and he got fired for speaking out against the war.
The war.
And
I mean, they had Dan Abrams was one of their stars for a while. I think the only person who's still there that was back then was Joe Scarborough. He's still there.
Right.
But they really went more. I mean, it was basically what happened was CNN, I don't know, went full racist during the 2008 campaign. And so a lot of people like me who actually used to work for CNN I said, I'm definitely not watching them at all. And I turned to MSNBC, and this was at a time when Rachel Maddow just lost her job with Air America, and Keith Olbermann was the big liberal voice at the time. And they
on MSNBC, he was
kind of an accident too. He was there to do the news, and he just started going more and more into what his opinion was,
editorializing.
Yeah, and he's brutal to the Republicans, and people loved it.
Loved it. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that's when I first started taking notice of MSNBC.
Me too.
But having not realized that how it, its genesis. I didn't know how it started out or anything about it.
3 network out of 3. Nobody was watching MSNBC.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, are we avoiding the elephant in the room?
The elephant in the womb, you mean?
Yes, that. Yes. The elephant in the womb. With what news came out this week, I should say that Ginny Thomas engineered leak, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more people adopt your opinion.
Yeah. That's because it's the most plausible of all of them.
Yeah.
So
it is just the kind of ham-handed thing that she would do.
Yeah.
To try to keep all of the justices in line.
Yep.
Yeah, and to keep them where they are, and to keep as much of the draft in place, right?
Right. So the elephant in the womb, for anybody who's been living under a rock this week, is that a draft opinion from February written by Alito striking down Roe v. Wade. And we knew when they decided not to intervene in the Texas law, and when they decided that they would hear Dobbs on the Mississippi law, we knew that striking down Roe was
a likelihood.
A very, very much a likelihood.
To me, I mean, I was thinking it was a likelihood. I wasn't even thinking
scope
possibility.
Of this opinion. I mean, where he says that Roe was decided egregiously and saying that only the rights enumerated in like the first 9 amendments count.
Right. Apparently the 14th Amendment is not a thing.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The 13th, 14th.
And then citing 17th century English judge who hung women for witchcraft.
Matthew Hale. Is that right? Matt, did I get his name?
Yeah. So just to round out what we're saying here, the logic is what immediately like made my stomach turn, right? Because the logic that he employs is illogical, but it's basically that the word abortion is not mentioned anywhere in the Constitution. Therefore, it shouldn't be considered to be okay, or to be legalized. I mean, that's essentially what
isn't mentioned anywhere in the Constitution either. So I guess women aren't legal either.
Right. Well, yeah, we're not even 3/5.
Right.
According to, but so his logic is that essentially there's no right to privacy because that too is not mentioned in the Constitution. So if you take that to its logical conclusion, and this is what I wrote when the news broke, was then you lose Obergefell, you right to gay marriage, you lose Loving, the right to interracial marriage, you lose all the rights to privacy.
Contraception.
Right, contraception, the right to decide what you're going to do with your sexual partner in the privacy of your own bedroom.
Yeah.
All of those things are now not enumerated in the Constitution and therefore shouldn't be protected.
They're targets.
They're absolutely target. Oh, education, another one, right? I mean, they're already talking. Abbott's already going after education.
Yeah.
So
Abbott is saying that if you're undocumented, you don't get to be educated.
That's just the entry drug to taking away all public education.
Of course it is.
Because, that, right?
Because they want it all to be done by the church, which, I know that Aliza and I, as the two Jews in the group,
I'm with you. I'm totally with you on this. There is no daylight between you and I on this thing.
There isn't, because the other thing that they want is they don't want the state to provide the services that public schools provide. Right. Like they don't want the states to have they don't want the public schools to be on. They don't want the states to be on the hook for feeding children. Which a lot of these
screenings, vision screenings.
Electorate as stupid as Madison Cawthorn and Lauren Boebert.
That's
exactly what I want. And Madison Cawthorn is seriously stupid, even stupider than Lauren Boebert, and I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, like that's really saying something.
Yeah.
But
so
without getting into his difficulties,
we can talk about that at the end.
Oh, Aliza.
See, I like this. I mean, our kids' rights, our daughters' rights are being taken away, being greatly curtailed. They are going to have fewer rights than we had. And the three of us can still find something to laugh about.
Well, yeah, we can.
I'm going to ask you a rights that I had. I'm still of childbearing age. Okay.
I'm forgetting that you're younger than us.
No, I'm a little younger than you, but let me explain something to you. I'm going to be 52 in a few weeks. I'm going to be 53 in a few weeks. Okay. So what that means is that should the right to birth control go away? Should companies decide they don't feel like using health insurance that covers birth control go away? Should that stop being a thing that is required under law? Should I decide, should I, for whatever reason, God forbid, become pregnant again, which I can because I've had the blood tests. I know how close I am to menopause. I know what's going on in, in my menopausal development or lack thereof. If I didn't have birth control right now, I could easily, that man fucking looks at me from 3 rooms away and I get pregnant.
I'm sorry to laugh. I know you didn't.
No, but it's the truth. I'm sorry. Worthingtons are fertile. I don't know what to tell you. But that I should be so I'm not just, it's not just our daughters. It's not just that my daughter is going to be growing up. If I get pregnant, I nearly died giving birth to Leo in his 39th week or 38th week or something. He wasn't even a preemie. It was 2 weeks early. He was considered full term. I think 36 weeks is full term. It was 38 weeks. I was just there for my regular weekly appointment, like you do in the last month. And she was like, "Hey, you got a little protein in the urine there. Let me, check your blood pressure. It's a little high. Hang out for 10 minutes. Let me do it again." Started raising up. I'm going to send you over to the maternity honestly, I was in labor and delivery. You know how they get you out of that room, like within 2 hours of giving birth, right? Like they want you out of there. I was in that labor and delivery room for 3 days because they couldn't move me. I was so unstable after I gave birth.
Wow.
It was really messed up.
Right.
And you wouldn't want to go through that again, I'm sure.
That was when I was 34.
Right.
Yeah. This is nearly 20 years later. So you're telling me that if I were to, that if birth control goes away, or if something happens and I got pregnant, I should have to go through with another pregnancy at this age?
I don't think so.
No. With your 3 other children all grown.
With my youngest being 18?
Yeah.
Right.
I should do this now?
Yeah.
So my rights have gone away. My rights are less than they were a year ago.
And
so
the thing,
I understand the generational thing, but there are a lot of us that are all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Kind of a fucked up situation.
Yeah, no, that's a good point too. I mean, there's a lot of, the people that have grown up with understanding that they have the right to choose, the right to autonomy over their body, and suddenly not. Yes. And I've seen so many people on the conservative side of things like being assholes about this, and like there was a video today of a woman just screaming at women that they're murderers.
Not any woman. This was
a New Hampshire legislator.
A New Hampshire legislator.
Right.
Elected official.
Right. And she's screaming at that women that they're murderers. And of course, that's just, we have to if you take all the emotion out of it for a minute, all that is inflammatory. That's all it is. Because if you look at history, right, that whole line of criticism has only been over the last 35 years, 40 years, maybe.
Yeah. That
right?
That abortion is murder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before then, right, churches were like, well, the Southern Baptist Church was totally on board with it because the Catholics weren't, right?
The Catholics were the only ones. When Roe came down, it was the Catholics.
Yeah.
That were, and I remember the first time I saw the terms right to life on a flyer. And I thought it was the most stupid thing I'd ever seen.
Right.
And like, well, this is dumb. Everybody believes in a right to life. This has nothing to do with anything. I'm 17 years old and I'm seeing this, right? And coming to this conclusion because I'm logical.
Yeah. Right. And I was forming arguments for my civics class about this, and so it was just, to me, this, like you said, right to life. What is that? And I actually had a friend of mine who we'd been friends since we were 4 years old. We were best friends. And we literally split over this particular issue, this one issue. But and I still stay in touch with her, but it's never going to be the same.
No.
It's just not.
No.
And is she Catholic or is it?
She was raised Catholic, left the Catholic Church, went to an Episcopal church that was actually very liberal about this stuff. But she her husband is very conservative, and I think that's got a lot to do with
Yeah.
where she landed on this. And it's interesting, we just had lunch a few weeks back, and she said, like, the last time we'd had dinner, she was telling me how great Sarah Palin was. And I was like ranting, right? And so when we had lunch this time, she said, you know, back in the day when you used to rant about this stuff, I used to fight you on it. And she said, but you were right. And I like, that's the first time that I, you know, she'd ever said that about just those things. And I was talking about healthcare and stuff like that. But, you know, we've never actually addressed the abortion issue again, because I bear the thought of having to cut off everything again. It's like, I would rather have it be the elephant in the room that we don't talk about than to have to cut off that friendship again. I mean, we were 4 years old when we were best friends for our whole school lives.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
that's you know, people minimize the impact these disagreements have, and they might be critical of people who would break over things like this. And I don't think that's fair, because I think the ones who say, oh, I can't believe that you would, you know, break off our friendship or break off our relationship over politics. You know, they're minimizing, those are the people who aren't adversely impacted by politics. Those are the people whose rights aren't being taken away.
They have privilege, and they
have privilege, and they're the ones who they're in a position to say, you know, if their humanity was constantly questioned and constantly under attack, and if
they didn't have the money to fly to another state to get the health care they needed,
you know, that or provide it for their family,
right,
or live in a state where, you know, like I'm in Maryland, New York, California, are going through everything they possibly can within, I mean, we have a Republican governor, but our state is doing, our legislature has, you know, expanded, you know, the laws, you know, we just passed a law, it's not in effect yet, that greatly expands the number of medical professionals, the types of medical professionals that can perform abortion, so that, you know, it's more widely available. You know, I live in the state, so I feel fairly secure, but you know, the people who just say, you know, I can't believe you would do this over politics,
they're gunning for it to be illegal in the entire country.
They are.
Oh yeah.
Now they talk states' rights.
And as much as Schumer might be trying to call a vote for, you know, as much as they might want to codify it into federal law, it'll never survive a Supreme Court challenge.
So I just want to say, though, they need to do that anyway. I mean, they need to bring it up for a vote.
They should get everybody on the record.
Right, absolutely.
The Republicans had every other week a vote to
repeal Obamacare.
Right.
Yeah.
The Democrats have to do the same thing now.
They have to do absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So that people will see them trying to do something.
But your point is well taken, and that is that really what has to happen is the court has to be expanded.
Yes.
It must be expanded. If it's not expanded, I mean, we're at a tipping point right now. Abortion is the tip of the spear. But as we've already discussed, there's all these other rights that are at risk. And one of them, and I love this, right? You hear all the conservatives saying, oh, listen to those liberals. They're all, you know, fear mongering, and these rights won't be at risk, and blah, blah, blah. Hello, Bush v. Gore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Bush v. Gore was not supposed to be cited as precedent, and yet It is cited as precedent all the time.
Yeah.
So, please tell me more about how it's us that are being ridiculous about this. I don't think so. And I'm thinking about the right to.
You don't have to go that far back. You could. People were telling us we were hysterical in 2016.
Yeah,
I know.
Hillary was right about everything.
Oh yeah, let's just stipulate that, right?
Yeah.
I in my little rant that I wrote after this all came out, I actually, like, in the middle of this rant, I just stopped and said in all caps, Hillary was right about everything, and you can vote for her. Yeah. I mean, and I looked at it later, I thought that's kind of random. I mean, I just like threw that in the middle.
Perfect. It was perfect. It was perfect because it's a through line.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Through everything that we've gone through the last 5.5 years, it's everything. It still persists throughout, even though Biden is president, even though we have the tiniest majority in the House and the Senate, and we only have
really is the tiniest.
It isn't even a majority in the Senate. It's still impacting us. People are saying, what are you complaining about? You got the House and you got a majority and you got the presidency and whatever. Yeah, I'm complaining because we don't have enough of a majority to get anything done.
Right. And so we're like in a no-win position where people are saying, well, you've got control of the House and the Senate and the presidency. Why can't you get anything done? Because we don't really have control of the Senate.
Well, and by the way, neither did Republicans. I mean, every time somebody says this, I say, hey, you know what? The reason Obamacare wasn't repealed is because they just couldn't get that last vote to get it. And they had more senators than we did.
Yeah.
Right. And that didn't happen. So, and thank God it didn't happen. I mean, I'm not complaining, obviously, but I'm saying, don't assume, like, Norm Ornstein tweeted something today or yesterday about how if you had told him that he was going to get, that Biden would get a $3 trillion relief package through and then an infrastructure package on top of that, he would have said, with 50 people, he would have said, you're nuts. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yep.
Every time we try to bring that back up, it doesn't get, oh my God.
What was that?
Who was that?
He came to the door and ran.
Did you have an Amazon order?
I don't think so. I think it was a kid.
Well, maybe he was paid to knock on your door and run so that you wouldn't talk about abortion.
Across the street. I live down the street from a middle school. I think it's a prank.
Just one of the, what do they call those?
Ding dong ditch.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Really? I've never heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
We used to do that.
All the time.
Ring the bell and run.
Ding dong ditch, yes.
I'm eating this entire bottle.
That looks really good right now because I haven't had lunch. I had a bowl of like puffed wheat for breakfast, and that's all I had. It looks super good right now.
I'm just blowing it. I'm eating it out of the cap. I'm just.
Get yourself a snack. You're in your kitchen.
Well, I mean, I have some Fritos over here, but they crunch too much, so I'm good. I'll just wait until later. I know, me too. God. I have, and they're low salt Fritos.
Did you guys have Dipsy Doodles out in California?
What? You're younger than I am.
So. No. When I was very little, they were. I think they were like the precursor, or maybe the poor man's version of the Fritos. They were called Dipsy Doodles, but I think that they might be just a regional New York thing where, like in New York, we had Wise potato chips. Wise was a brand that we had.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That I've heard of.
Or whatever. And, and I feel like Dipsy Doodles were the corn chips of the day.
We had Bugles.
Oh, I love Bugles. To this day, I love Bugles.
We have Bugles.
I can't believe we're talking about Bugles and Fritos in the middle.
I'm going to mute because my phone is ringing.
Okay, here is what's getting to me. These laws are being written by men who know nothing about how babies are made and women's anatomy and how everything works.
They know how it works. They just don't care.
They've got these heartbeat bills. And is it Louisiana that just passed a bill that said that if if life begins at fertilization, and that a woman who loses a fertilized egg is a murderer.
Yeah, that's Louisiana.
And
Charged with felony
these
murder.
laws,
As if there's any other kind of murder.
exceptions for
Right.
rape, incest, or health of the mother. They make absolutely no accommodation for an ectopic pregnancy, which would kill the woman without an abortion. Also, that if you just miscarry, the way it is coded in the hospital is an abortion. A D&C to clean you out after a miscarriage is coded as an abortion.
You know what's freaky about that? What's crazy about that is I had a D&C after I had one of my kids because I wouldn't stop bleeding. And that's how they made it stop bleeding, was to do a D&C. So, I mean, there's a lot of, I guess my point with that is there's a lot of reasons for D&C. And who are they to say that one is okay and another one isn't?
And the other thing is, like, in terms of like them not knowing, who the fuck's calling? Probably my husband. Sorry, everybody. Oh my God.
What?
It's Dave. Dave, I'm doing the podcast.
Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave. This could be one of the best ones we've ever done, honestly, just because it's so like totally real.
Like, the thing that kills me in terms of like them not knowing how shit works is like, they're like, you can have an abortion up until the day the baby's born.
Okay, and like, that's such bullshit.
That's not a thing. Like, that's, if the baby's born,
it's viable.
It's infanticide.
Right.
Then you're committing infanticide. And that's what I was telling That's what I was telling Fran about this crazy lady in New Hampshire who was calling all the people murderers, and she was saying, I murdered my baby. I murdered my baby. And I was like, well, then she should turn herself into the police, because that's illegal. It's illegal to murder babies that are already alive. That's not allowed.
Viable,
you do that. And
the difference between a viable infant and a 12-week embryo. A big difference.
Right. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if you guys want to hear about how I actually had the experience of converting a couple of forced birthers yesterday when
that was my next thing to segue to, Aliza, because I want to hear how your week has been.
Right. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Aliza volunteers on the front line as an abortion clinic escort.
I've been escorting since Trump was elected.
And she faces these face-to-face with these people every week.
And as an aside, it's very interesting to me, as like, it would be an interesting like sociological or anthropological study, because I'm in Maryland, and I help out at 2 different clinics. And when I was in one of the clinics is in a very small town close to West Virginia. And it's out in Western Maryland. And it's very like, historic looking, and it's very, adorable and movie set looking kind of town. And there's this independent small little clinic there. And I was there for a couple of years before they started also needing help in the Baltimore City Planned Parenthood. But when I was at this one independent clinic, just for the first year or 2 that I was helping out, I got used to there are regulars. There are regular protesters, right? Like, you get to know, their names, who they are. It's the same people practically every single week who come and hold their stupid ass signs and do their stupid ass preaching, and they say the same thing, and they've got the props are all the same. And when I got called to start work, and when they started needing more people in Baltimore, I was like, oh, I'm totally ready for this. I went to Baltimore. It's a fucking different animal in Baltimore. And it's real. I think it would be really an interesting, whoever's listening, if anybody is, an interesting like study, like those people, the protesters and the antis in Baltimore are a totally different kind of aggressive. And it was just very, I was not prepared. I thought, I was like, oh, I've been doing this for a couple of years. I'm ready for that. This is no problem. I went out. Oh my God, I was not ready. They were a lot more physical. They were a lot more, like they go after us. The people in Hagerstown go after the patients. Right. So it's like totally different. It's just kind of like an aside, just sort of an interesting like dynamic. I feel like it would be interesting if anybody's interested, if they want to like hire somebody to do a book and go around the country and like do sort of a study of like the antis. It would sort of be an interesting sociological thing, I think, because it's like, anyway, it's not the same everywhere you go, is my point. But so when this came down on Monday, I had no shifts scheduled. I was not planning on escorting this week. I had a shift scheduled for next week, but I signed up for both, for yesterday in the small town place and then today in Baltimore. And I'm going to be doubling up. I was doing once a week. I'm going to do twice a week now. We have had, thankfully, tons of inquiries. Lots of people want to come and escort now.
That's good.
And I'm doing everything I can not to say, where the fuck were you 4 years ago? But I am grateful. And yes, please come, sign on, escort. I've had men, for whoever is watching this, say, very, very sensitively, they're I understand and appreciate they're asking, is it useful to have a man there as an escort, or is it, is it about, is it, do we serve to intimidate, or are we, making it harder as men to be there? Men, if you'd like to escort, we appreciate it. You are fabulous escorts. Some of the best escorts are men. I am telling you, you do a great job. We have fabulous male escorts in both of the places I've been escorting. This is so you do not have to be a female to escort. Please, anybody who's willing to put the time in, anybody who is willing to who is good at absorbing just toxic anger crap and able to let it roll off your back and able to have like a palace guard demeanor and just act as a buffer so that patients you can kind of guide patients around them and into the clinic, is, we want you. If you can do that, that would be awesome. So yes, if you're a man, we want you. Yes, still, that would be great. So that's my little thing about that. To this week hasn't been really any different. Than any, it really hasn't been, with the exception of more escorts, which has been great. Like a bunch of
more. Good.
Obviously, as soon as it came down on Monday, all of a sudden the sign-up sheets got really full, which was fabulous.
Yes.
That was when people said to me, what can I do? I voted, I did all these things, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? Don't sit here and complain.
Now there's
social
also
media. Sign up to escort, put your body in front of these women who need you to be there, protect them.
Only if you have the temperament for it, because not everybody does, and it's not
right. I understand.
Like, I don't want to pass there's no judgment if you don't. There's lots of people who don't. And there are other things you can do. There are independent clinics who really, really need money to help stay open. There's a Google Doc that of a bunch of independent clinics that aren't Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has a shit ton of money. Planned Parenthood doesn't, fine, give to Planned Parenthood if you want to. But I think that we should put, maybe on the MOMocrats page, I have a Google Doc of all the independent, a bunch of independent abortion clinics, like the one I do out in Hagerstown, that they're struggling financially to stay open.
Yeah.
Give your dollars to them if you don't have if you don't live near one of these places where you can actually put your body on the on the line.
Right. I've been donated to the one in Mississippi.
Yes, there's the Yellow Hammer Fund. There's the Pink House Fund.
I donate monthly to the
and there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of them all over the country, right? So you really can. I mean, it's not a hopeless. It's not a situation where there's nothing you can do,
right?
Okay? And it isn't helpful to come escort if you're in the mood to cause trouble,
right?
Or if you're in the mood to get into a big fight,
right?
Okay, because that ultimately doesn't help the patients. We're there to help the patients, and we're there. We have to keep when we're out there on the sidewalk, and I am guilty of. I've been rebuked for this on occasion. Of non-engagement with the aunties, right? And you're just there to try to buffer and help the patient, and it's not always possible,
right? Because once they're in your face, sometimes you have to.
So I mean, you can be as silent as you want, and sometimes that makes them angrier.
I'm sure.
No joke.
No, I'm sure.
I want a reaction, and if they don't get one, they're going to provoke you more.
Right.
And there is something to be said. So, like I did yesterday, we had so many escorts yesterday in this small town with a tiny sidewalk. It looks like a Charles Dickens town, right? It looks like, it's a tiny sidewalk. I said, I'm going to put myself across the street, because sometimes people park across the street and I can let them know that we're here to help them or whatever. So somebody parks and he tries to hand me a postcard, and I'm like, what's this? And he wouldn't show me what the words were. And then he turned it over. I was like, what does it say? And he turned it over, and it was all this shit about all this Bible shit. And I was like, oh, fuck off. And he was like, and then they got out of their car. It was two men, of course, right? They got out of their car, and I managed to keep them on my side of the street. Plus a third guy came over. So I managed to keep three aunties on my side of the street. But then I ended up I started out confrontational with them, like, oh, how's the testicle tanning going? Have you gotten a vasectomy? When did you get your vasectomy yet? Tell me about the vasectomy. How long is your dick?
Here's.
I would like to know how long your dick is. And they're like, well, you don't want to tell me. I understand if you're embarrassed. It's okay. Don't be embarrassed. I used to be embarrassed about the size of my breasts. It's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed. I would go on and on. I was vulgar as shit with them. Oh my God. And they were like, why are you so vulgar? Why do you need to be vulgar? And I would be like, you know what? I have a lot of anger about this. And then we would start talking, and then we started talking religion. But meanwhile, I managed to keep them on my side of the street, away from the patient.
Right.
Yes. And I was only able to do this because we had 6 escorts on the other side of the street, handling the patients with the rest of the 15, 10 to 15 aunties on that side of the street. So I was able, and you know what? I mean, if God forbid anybody at WACTIF sees this podcast, which they won't, I'm going to get rebuked again for being outrageous with the aunties. But what ended up happening was they started talking about religion, and I started talking about religion, and they started saying, I started asking them questions. I went into my teacher mode, and my teacher mode is all about questioning. And my teacher mode is all about, they would say, they would say, but Jesus is the one truth. And I would say, so my religion, which is twice as old as your religion, is totally wrong.
And your religion, which is your religion's foundation, is totally wrong. Yeah.
And they would say that. They would say, no, your religion is the basis of our religion. And I would say, yeah, but do you understand? And they would ask, then they start asking me questions.
Because they probably never talked to a Jewish person before.
They never talked to this Jewish person before. And what they ended up saying.
That can be quite an experience.
They said, you don't, and they started asking me questions. And they said, you don't believe life begins at conception? No. And I said, in Judaism, the embryo, blastula, whatever scientific name you want to call it, is considered water for the first 40 days. Water. It's liquid. I said, in Judaism, the baby doesn't acquire a soul until it crowns, until it takes its first breath independent of the mother. I said, in Judaism, and you're telling me that and so I started telling them about Judaism. And they were like fucking enthralled. And they kept asking me questions. And I swear to God, for an hour and 15 minutes, I kept those idiots on my side of the street.
Good for you. And not with the fight,
and right? Not with the patience. And you know what? By the end of it, one of them actually said the words to me, I think the world would be a happier place if Christians would say Jesus is a way and not the way.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
That was a huge admission. You know that, right?
Yes. And I was like, I would, and they were all like, I love you. I can say I love you. Can you say you love me? And I'm like, no, I'm not that. I'm stingy with my love. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm stingy with my love. I'm not stingy with my knowledge. I'm not stingy with my privilege or my intellect, but I am stingy with my love. You got to earn that shit.
And honestly, when they say they love you, what they're saying is, we're going to let you be in our space without a problem. That's not love.
And I got to give them credit for being open to listening after all the shit I gave them about their testicles and the size of their dick. But it was like, it was really kind of an interesting experience. I was like, I've never converted anyone before. I was like, in Judaism, we don't want you.
No, we don't do that.
We don't do that. We're not interested in
like the Sex in the City arc. Charlotte decided she wanted to convert so she could marry Harry.
Oh.
And she kept going to the rabbi, and the rabbi didn't want to talk to her. And then she realized, oh, it's the rules. I know the rules. I've read that.
I was like, you find me an uncircumcised 40-year-old man who's willing to convert to Judaism, that dude's brave.
It is.
I'll totally, okay, I'll talk to that guy. But, no, we don't want you. There's a great oatmeal cartoon. But anyway.
The whole thing is, when I hear people say things like, I love you, do you love me? I feel they don't even have a clue. Honestly, they don't have a clue.
But in the meantime, I also had a very detailed conversation with them about abortion and how abortion in Judaism is not only allowed but required if the life of the mother is at risk.
That's right.
And risk is given a very wide, flexible definition in Judaism because it includes mental health. It includes mental distress.
Yeah.
Which includes if you are raped, or includes if it's going to cause, if you have 4 or 8 children already and you're fucking done.
Yeah.
Or you financially cannot afford it.
Or you're 52 years old and this was a surprise.
And your youngest is about to go to college.
Right.
And you're done.
Yes.
Right. You're not going to go back there again. And that's
not
the
going
thing.
back to diapers and car seats again.
Right.
It's just, and I said, and are you honestly, and I will say to them, I said to them yesterday, I said, are you, in all intellectual honesty, are you saying to me that your religion supersedes my religious beliefs in this? And they just
They couldn't
stopped.
answer that.
They wouldn't say yes. They wouldn't say yes. Like they would say,
it's hard to say that to your face.
it really was. It really was. And it was a really interesting conversation, I got to say. And again, I'm going to give them credit for continuing on with me.
Yeah.
After I started.
I'll give them credit for listening to you, but what frustrates me about having this whole discussion is that it's unnecessary. I mean, it is absolutely unnecessary. I mean, this is a political wedge that was created to amass power.
Yes.
And, using women basically as the ammunition to amass power.
We are still fighting the Christo-fascist takeover.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the part that really annoys me about all of this. I mean, I'm glad they listened to you. I'm glad they did these things. But at the same time, like as a Christian, one of the places I won't go on Sunday is church on the third week in January when it's Right to Life Sunday, because that's just intended to kind of hammer in this bullshit. And it's political. It's absolutely 100% political. It's meant to send a message that you should only support candidates who are anti-women and pro-men. And I mean that in that literal context, because if you believe in robbing women of their bodily autonomy, then what you believe in is being pro-men at the expense of women. And it's just wrong. It's morally, ethically, and every other way wrong that I can think of. And this Christian will not stand for it.
And they don't believe in it in the other way. They don't believe that there's anything wrong with medication that helps a man maintain an erection so that he can impregnate a woman.
Right.
Getting pregnant is God's will, but being impotent, I'll do something about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's so, again, intellectually dishonest, which is a term that I found myself using. I don't think I overused it, because every time I used it, they sort of, I mean, they didn't rear back, but I just saw it register with them.
Yeah.
Good. It should.
Because they are intellectually honest of you, for you to do this, and they.
Well, good for you.
Whatever. It was an unusual day yesterday. Today was the usual. Today was the usual in Baltimore, where they were like, "Oh, there's a Jew. She's perpetuating the Holocaust. It's just like the Nazis and the Third Reich." And it's just, I mean, he's in it. They're idiots in there, but it's all the same people. If you end up escorting, you will find you have the same crew that comes over and over again, and you'll get to know them, and then you'll learn how to, navigate around them.
I couldn't do it.
Help if you can know your personality. Exactly. Know your temperament. Know if you can, do it for a few hours, a week, or once a month or whatever. I'm gonna I'm gonna send the link for this Google Doc that has. And you can just donate dollars if you want to.
Yeah.
To help
what I'll do. I would not help. I would not help. I would be in their face, and it would not be in a good way. Yeah. I mean, like the other thing I've seen you do is sort of just start singing, when they and stuff. And I think that's
but it's a dirty song.
I couldn't do it, but I still couldn't do it. You know what? I'd be like, forget the dirty song. My song would be "Fuck you" and "The Horse You Rode In On." Get the hell out of my face, right? I mean,
does everybody remember Jane the Virgin? That show, Jane the Virgin? Okay, so one time one time I went to the corner in Baltimore in front of Planned Parenthood. I went to the corner and I just started, this idiot was preaching and I just started singing, "It's a beautiful day of the week to be Rogelio, to be Rogelio, to be Rogelio." I just started singing the Rogelio song because and she had no idea what I was singing. And she goes, "I rebuke you. I rebuke you." She started doing this crazy Christian shit, like, like rebuking me. And I'm like, okay, I'm just singing this song, like they're bonkers.
I can tell you exactly what they said. "I rebuke you." I'm surprised they didn't say, "Come out, Satan. Come out."
No, they didn't say that. It was something about rebuking. I was being rebuked.
In the name of Jesus. Yes.
Okay, yeah, probably. And I was like, really? I'm just singing about, it's like such a happy song. It's a beautiful day of the week to be Rogelio. It's not
Rogelio. You know that.
There's nothing dirty or evil about that song. It's so innocent. It's so
but these people are, and this is the part that just drives me crazy, right? These people are just so steeped in their own righteousness. It's like at night they marinate in it, right? they read the Bible and they misinterpret it as well as they can, so that they're just completely marinated in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to go out there tomorrow and I'm going to fight for Jesus. And it's like, no,
I'm going to get my Jesus hours in.
And if you actually read the Bible and you actually pay attention to it, what you'd be doing right then is turning over the money changers, in the church.
In the table,
right?
Yep. We're flipping the tables.
Yeah.
Flipping the tables, yep.
So,
yeah.
I mean, this Christian it just drives me crazy. It's why I do what I do, because I know that people, they read what I write and they know what I think.
You're a Christian with a lowercase c.
Yeah, I try to be. I mean,
that's actually follow Jesus's teachings.
Right, which is that you love one another. That's what you do. And that's why when I told you earlier that person said that to you, that was like their way of, oh, I'm being biblical. But they didn't actually know what that meant, because there's actual action that goes into that. You don't just get to say, "I love you now." That's not how it works.
I don't love you. I mean, I like, and I said this to them. I said, "I like you better than I did an hour ago."
That's honest.
I said that to them. I said, "I definitely like you better now than I did before."
Right.
But that's not how love works for me.
We have about 2 minutes left.
Which is
wow.
Men
seriously
want like Madison Cawthorn.
Oh my God.
Oh, darn it.
You guys have Mother's Day plans?
Working.
I am. So I'm just going to say, in case my mom ever watches this, which I don't think she will, that I am so grateful that she's out here, that she's
so
just a couple of miles away, that I can actually see her on Mother's Day, that I can give her a hug and a kiss.
Yeah.
And, I'm just super grateful that that's
What about your kids? Are they going to be near you? Any of them?
So, no, both of mine are. Both of my sons are. My daughter is still COVID positive. So she's not going. Yeah.
Is she feeling okay?
She's doing okay. I mean, she's just frustrated because she's still testing positive. So that's frustrating.
It can take a long while before.
It can take a while before they stop. But as long as, I'm glad she's feeling okay.
It feels good.
Yeah.
Good.
So, I mean, I'm just glad I get to see my mom on Mother's Day.
That's really special. And you've done so much work to make that happen.
Yeah.
Karoli, you have worked so hard.
Well, I mean, I'm glad to have been able to do it,
Rat shit and all.
Oh, God.
How about you, Aliza? Mother's Day.
I'm going to be working. I'll be working. I'll hang out with Dave, and Leo will be around, and it'll be the day after his prom, and so we'll see if he shows his face.
Fun.
Leo has prom tomorrow night, so Mother's Day we'll see how available he is. You're golfing on Mother's Day? Are you serious? No, he's kidding. Okay, so that's what I'm doing.
You'll be asleep
by myself on Mother's Day.
Leo will be sleeping on Mother's Day.
Leo's
I'm
gonna sleep.
guessing.
Dave's
Yeah.
gonna serve me hand and foot. What are you doing, Donna?
I have no idea. I'm not sure my daughter even knows it's Mother's Day. She's working on another movie and
Oh, cool.
I barely see her. Yep. She's,
Well, behind you.
she's working for Ben Affleck now.
Awesome.
So he's directing this movie. Now it's The Bell.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't get it.
So I'd just like to say
got
that this
10
podcast
seconds,
was made
so.
possible because
by
alcohol.
alcohol.
I need my
That's
second.
it for this week. Join us next week at MOMocrats.buzzsprout.com or our YouTube channel, or find us on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for Aliza's spreadsheet.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
It's Donna Schwartz Mills saying goodbye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
MOMocrats Mama Chat is part of the DemCast family of podcasts.